you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today I'm going to be giving you the update to the Easy tank. Now this hasn't been updated for quite some time, but he's still very strong, and this is aimed at people who are trying to get into tanking. Now of course this is actually capable of pretty much all content, but this is very basic in terms of its stats. It has everything you need as a tank in terms of its strength, survivability, face tanking, all that kind of stuff. It's got lots of health, it's got lots of stamina, it's got lots of resist, it's got lots of block costs, it's got everything you need to be able to control the targets or control the environment that you're in order to make sure that everybody else doesn't get slapped. Now, first of all, we're going to go into the stats. Pop a potion first of all. We are sitting on 47.7k max health. We're using a lot of abilities that actually scale off of health, so the more the better. We are on 1.8k mag recovery, which is huge, and we're on 21.3k max stamina, which is more than enough to block with. We are on 34k spell resist, which is slightly over cap, I know, and physical resistance we're on 32k, which is slightly under, but with a minor buff will actually be maxed. Now, we don't actually have to apply any buffs or anything because all of this is static. It stays there. We're 64 points into max health, but if you're more than comfortable with this, you can actually drop that down and add some more stamina if you want, if you can't block enough, although this does actually borderline permablock to some extent. And of course, we're max level 4 stage vampire with the Ashnarch Mundus Stone. Using max health, max stamina food, but in situations where you don't have to block quite so much, especially considering that we're a face tank, we can actually use max health magic recovery food, so we can use our magic abilities much more often because our recovery will be higher, and then we don't have to sit there doing this all day. So I'm going to go into the skills in detail. I'm going to explain every single one of them, where they come from, what they start off as, what morph we've chosen, and why, and of course how to use them effectively. Now, if you already know all this already, of course you're welcome to skip, but if you do skip, you run the risk of asking questions that have already been answered, and those comments I won't respond to. So just, it's at your own risk. First of all, Igneous Shields. This is our bread and butter protection skill. Very strong indeed. Igneous Shields is in the Earth and Heart skill line. It's the third ability you unlock. It starts off as Obsidian Shield. You want to morph it to Igneous Shields. Now, this has a damage shield which applies to you and your group, up to 6 people in total. Because of our max health, this determines the strength of the shield. Damage shields were changed, by the way, in Murkmire, but I'll get into that in a second. This will give us an almost 4k damage shield. Now, if you have lower health, the shield will drop and drop and drop and drop. It's based off of your max health, so the higher, the better. Now, shields were changed in Murkmire in the terms that they were granted our resistance first. Before, damage shields were flat. So if you got hit for 4k, bye-bye 4k damage shield. Now, we have resistances that are considered first, and the damage is calculated via your resists before your damage shield takes it. So, for argument's sake, for our own shield, if we say we have a 4k damage shield, our mitigation is almost capped. Cap mitigation for resistances alone is 50%. So now we mitigate 50% of the damage before it even touches our shield. So when we get hit for 4k, we actually get hit for 2. We've still got half the shield left. Now, our shield is obviously a lot stronger than that because we get a 150% increase, but that's just an example. The same applies for DPS as well, healers, all that good stuff. Whatever the mitigation bonus is, it will be considered before it hits the shield. So these are very strong. And the reason we have high magical recovery is because we can borderline spam this, especially if we have potions running, which have a really high duration on recovery. We can use this a lot, so we can protect our group all the time. Pay full attention to this skill, keep an eye on your magical bar, and every time you get the opportunity to, make sure you can fire one of these off. They're really helpful, and it really takes some stress off the healers as well. Also note that for activating this ability, we also grant ourselves major mending, increasing our heals that we do to ourselves by 25%. That's very important when it comes to trying to survive. So keep your shields up as much as possible. Again, the reason we have a high magicka recovery instead of a high pool is instead of running out of juice and going to 0 and waiting for ages for it to come back, we pretty much fill it within seconds, really fast. Now, next ability is Green Dragon Blood. Draconic Power skill line, third ability you unlock, starts off as Dragon Blood, morph it to Green Dragon Blood on purpose. Now this is also based off of your max health, so the higher the better, or the more efficient it is. When it's active, we will get major fortitude and major endurance, increasing our health recovery and stam recovery by 20%. Now, health recovery is not that important for us because we're a vampire. Stam recovery is only important when our shield is down, because if you're blocking, your stam recovery is stopped. So while you're not blocking, you will benefit from that bonus. But also we get minor vitality as well. So while this is active, all of our healing received, whether it be from somebody else or ourselves, have increased by 8%. So make sure you keep this on all the time as a buff. But when you activate it also, you will heal yourself for 37% of your missing health. So that's a percentage base. It's not 10k, 5k, 6k, 3k. It's not none of that. It's a percentage amount of missing health. So the more health you have, the more of a chunk that 37% actually is. So if you have very, very high health, you can use this very rarely and get a huge boost from it. If you have very low health, that percentage is much, 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 much smaller in terms of a flat heal, so you'll have to use it more often and you'll run out of juice. So the more health you have, the better. Also note, when I said Igneous Shields give you major mending and your heals are increased, activate it first, then check Dragon Blood. 45% of your missing health. Igneous Shields first, heals second. This is very, very powerful. The more health, the better. Pierce Armor, this is in our Sword and Board or One-Handed Shield skill line. It's the first ability you unlock. It's very, very basic. It's very early in the game. It's the first one you get for having Sword and Board. And what this does is this will taunt the target. It basically makes them hit you. And as a tank, this is what you need. Now, the taunt lasts 15 seconds, but there is a debuff applied as well in the form of Major Fracture and Major Breach. Both of these buffs together reduce the physical and spell resistance of the target by 5280 for 12 seconds. So you want to reapply your taunt every 12, not every 15. If you let your taunt run off, the boss is going to spin and slap the group. So don't do that. If you let the debuff run out, their damage is going to go down. PVE targets have 18,200 resistance. You've just stripped it of 5,280 already, improving their damage overall. So you've got to keep sure or make sure this stays up. And what you're looking for, if you're looking for the buffs, look above his head. You can see that there's several buffs there. The one with the shield that's broken in it, the one on the end, that's your taunt. That's how long you're taunting the target for. Don't let that ever run out. In the meantime, you can see the gold one and the purple one. Those two are Major Breach and Major Fracture. As long as they stay up 100% of the time also, obviously the taunt will reapply as well, so will the debuff. Your group will do as much damage as they can with that bonus applied, excluding any other bonuses and buffs and stuff that you might have applied by the rest of the people in the group. But that one there, Major Fracture and Major Breach, will stay up the whole time as long as you retaunt every 12 seconds. And that's per target, by the way, it's not AoE. So pay attention to that skill and don't let it run out. Now, the next ability is Defensive Posture. It's actually Absorb Magicka now. It starts off as Defensive Posture. Third ability in the Sword and Board or One-Handed Shield skill line. Now, this is ridiculously powerful. Any incoming magic type projectiles will take this whole damage shield off your bar and you will actually absorb the damage in health. You will heal from it. Up to 24k worth, in fact. Now, it looks like this. Coat your bar and a damage shield. That's not the same as Igneous Shield. Yes, they do stack, so you can mitigate a further amount of that when it comes in, but Defensive Posture, or Absorb Magicka even, only absorbs one magic type projectile. Fireball, lightning shot, whatever. Only one. The rest of the damage is not mitigated. But when it does, you will heal. You'll have an 8% bonus to your block reduction, so your cost, and also the amount of damage you can block as well. So you can block higher damage and it will cost you less just for being on your bar. So you don't have to activate it for that. But when you do, you'll heal. Now it's 17% of your maximum health in the form of a heal. The higher your health, of course, the larger that 17% chunk is going to be. But remember, our Igneous Shield increases our heals. So if you activate Igneous first, you will get 20% of your health back, not 17. So if you keep this shield up and apply this while spell projectiles are coming in, especially Lord Warden or Rakat or anything like that in the game, you will actually heal for a large proportion of your health, regardless of how much is missing. Doesn't matter if you've got 1% health left or 19 or 90% health left. You'll always get that big boost heal. This one is based on missing. This one is based on maximum. Now, Bone Shield is the next one. This is our other shield ability for the group. You want to get Bone Surge. It's in the Undaunted skill line. This starts off as Bone Shield, morph it to Bone Surge specifically. Now this is another damage shield that also stacks with Igneous Shield. It looks like this. As you can see, my health bar is covered in purple juice. That's because both shields stack together. This also is scaled off of max health, so the more health the better. Now, for 6 seconds, you absorb 30% of your maximum health. So obviously, if it goes in one hit, then the timer is gone. It doesn't last for the whole 6 seconds. But if it doesn't disappear straight away, it will stay up for as long as the duration. But if an ally nearby you activates a synergy from this effect, 3 other people will also receive a damage shield for the equivalent of 50% of their max health. And that does stack, again, with igneous shields. So you can give them, say for example, there's a DPS with 16k health, and they take this synergy. You now coated his health with 8k damage shield, and a 4k igneous. So he's now got a 12k damage shield just for you pumping out these abilities and doing nothing else. One synergy is all it takes. People have to take these. Also, just consider that you also get major vitality as well. So anyone that takes the synergy, they will receive major vitality, increasing the heals they receive. So if they're really squishy, they get a shield to protect them, their resists are considered, and their heals coming in are higher. This is a very important skill. Be careful because it does cost a lot of stamina, but the trick to that is to keep your sustain up. If you hold and block all the time and spamming this, you're going to run out of juice, as you can see. But if you're heavy attacking in between, you can keep your sustain up to some extent. In fact, quite a lot. It's not going past halfway now. I can get back what I'm using. So get into the habit of heavy attacking a lot if you're doing nothing else. Keep your taunts up. Heavy attack taunt if you have to. It's even easier to keep your sustain up. While your shield is down, you will still recover from your stamina recovery, and it's a lot easier to manage. The only time you don't want a heavy attack is when there's a block mechanic which is going to knock you over, or it's a heavy attack, in which case make sure you block. Now, the ultimate on the front bar is Shield Discipline. This is also from the Sword and Board skill line. You need level 50 in one-handed shield to unlock this. Starts off as Shield Wall, morph it to Shield Discipline. When you activate this for 7 whole seconds, it's really cheap as well, 135 ultimate, you will block for nothing. Your recovery will still count because you're not technically blocking, you're not holding this. You're still running around like normal speed and all the rest of it. It looks like this. What do? You're blocking the whole time. You can't be knocked down or anything by most mechanics, and of course heavy attacks are blocked by default. When that happens, all of your one-hand and shield abilities are also free. So this here and this, they're free. They don't cost you a thing. What you can do as a little tip is underneath that shield for the next 7 seconds, heavy attack your ass off and get your sustain back while making sure you apply your taunts. Taunts are free. Heavy attacks you can do while blocking. It's very important. It's a oh shit button. You don't necessarily need it all the time, but it's very effective in the right situations, especially if you've got to res people and stuff like that. Now the back bar, we'll start off with Invigorate and Drain. This is a vampire skill. It's in the vampire skill line. First ability to unlock starts off as Drain Essence, morph it to Invigorate and Drain. Now this does damage over 3 seconds, which is quite low, but during that damage, every 1 second you will also gain 5 ultimate a second, and you will restore your missing health every second. It is ridiculous. You can't block during this phase unless the block ulti is up, and you can't do anything else during it either because it's a channeled effect. You can actually just block to cancel it and stop it from doing it, but while you are activating it, you gain 5 ulti a second and 22% of your missing health. So while this is channeling, I mean, of course you can Ignis Shield first and heal second, but it won't give you 22% back then, it will give you 27. But by the time you swap bars, generally it's run out, so that's not that important. But again, the whole time you're doing this, you are constantly healing, constantly generating ultimate, and you can build Warhorns very fast. But don't forget to keep your taunt up. Really important skill. Heroic Slash, this is in the one hand and shield skill line. This one actually is a bit of a debuff at the same time as a bonus, but you don't have to have this all the time. I do sometimes switch this out for Mist Form, because in some situations, Mist Form is a bit of a godsend. When you're up against axes in Elfirian Archive, for example, and let's say for argument's sake your stamina is really low, you're running out of juice, you haven't got enough time to heavy attack anything because a heavy attack is now coming in and you can't counter it. So Mist Form, they'll go straight through you. They won't stun you, you're immune to immobilization, and you take 75% less damage. However, on an actual boss, big bosses, the big ones that you're supposed to hold still, don't use Mist Form on them because they will go straight through it and knock you over. But axes, war priests, anything like that, in most situations, as long as it's not a major boss itself and it's just side effects or adds or anything like that, you can actually avoid a lot of damage by applying Mist Form at the right situations. Same for Vass as well. Asylum Sanctorium, the flame AoE that lands after 25%, you can avoid a massive amount of damage with misform. Also, the lightning effect that lands on you, and of course the stomp phase where he jumps around the room like mad, you can also misform that as well. It's a very, very powerful skill, but you do need to understand how it works in which content allows it as well, because some don't. But it's really, really strong. So I'd highly recommend having that available for certain situations, but the rest of the time, Heroic Slash is just fine. When you hit the target with this, you'll reduce the damage that they do by 15% for 12 seconds, and you'll gain 1 ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 9 seconds. So for building the ultimate, you can just apply this every so often while keeping your taunt up, and you'll get a passive ultimate gain and debuff the target. But that's a flex slot, that's up to you. The next one is Inner Rage. Now this is in the Undaunted skill line. This starts off as Inner Fire, morph it to Inner Rage, so it's a cost of your magical pool instead of your stamina, because you want to have as much stamina as possible for blocks. And this actually range taunts the target. So instead of this stab taunt, you can have a range taunt, and he'll come to you, unless he is ranged. If he's an actual ranged damage based enemy or healer or something like that, where they deliberately stay ranged because that's their strong point, you will have to get out of their range for them to come chase you, and then come back in again when they're where you want them. So if he's there and he's an archer, he's not coming to me, he's just going to shoot me. But if I run backwards, go out of his range, he's now going to start running towards this line over here, the one you can see, the second one, and then I can come back in and hold him still. Single targets that are not ranged, that are sword and board and stuff like that, if you hit them with any taunt, they'll follow you anyway. So just consider that. But basically, the difference is for utility is just you can pull them from over there and they'll come to you. As far as their aggression is concerned, you will still need to stab them when they get in. Yes, they're both taunts, they're both on you, but the stab has the debuff. This one doesn't. Also, when you do activate this ability, by the way, there is a chance, a 37% chance, that this can have a synergy effect applied to it, and any allies that are 15 meters or further away can activate the synergy. It will do a 2-second kind of channeled effect where it grows and grows and grows, and all enemies in area of effect will get hit for massive magic damage. It's really, really strong. Next ability is Unrelenting Grip. This is in the Ardent Flame skill line, the 4th ability you unlock. You want to morph it from Fiery Grip to Unrelenting Grip. This does flame damage, and it also gives you Major Expedition if you apply it, but above all, this chains the enemies to your feet. It's got 22 meter range, and if you do this, they'll come to you and they'll land here. Unless they are immune to CC or currently going through an immunity due to a cooldown. So, if they can't be chained, that was a waste of magic, but it's not, because this particular skill actually returns 100% of the ability's cost if the target can't be pulled in right now. So if you're up against bosses or anything like that and you accidentally do it, don't worry, you didn't waste anything, you get it back. If you're up against something that's just now been stunned and you didn't realize, don't worry, you'll get it back. But this is your main control ability. You bring your enemies to you with this skill. Also, by the way, a little bit of a speed boost. I did mention that to start with, but I didn't explain how. If you are in a situation where you've got to get somewhere really quick, and that boss over there, I need to get there, don't just sprint up to him really, really fast, because you'll run out of stamina. Use a target on the way. So hit him with a chains, Major Expedition's on, you run faster. You use less stamina, and it's more efficient. Now, Choking Talons, of course, is the last one before the final ultimate. Now this is in the Draconic Power skill line. It's the 2nd ability you unlock, and this actually applies the same debuff as Heroic Slash. This is minor maim, they do not stack, but this is an area of effect root ability. Now what you do is you just apply it like this. You see there's claws. Any enemies caught in that, 6 enemies in total, will be clawed to the ground for 4 seconds, and you can control them, basically. So you chain them in, and you claw them up. Make sure they're taunted and they're with you, and just keep them there as much as you can while keeping your shields up for your group. Don't let the taunts run out, don't let them run away, and keep them with you. Very, very important. It reduces the damage they do to you and everybody else for 4 seconds, for 7 seconds in fact, but it does immobilize them for 4. Now, the ultimate, Aggressive Warhorn. There's 2 options here. Now this, of course, you will have to go to PvP, so my advice to you is to go Battlegrounds, because even if you lose, you still get points. But this will increase the group's maximum magic and stamina when fired by 10% for 30 seconds. So if it's a DPS type or anything really, the resources are higher, so the damage output is higher. Or for yourself, you've got a larger pool. Or for healers, they've got a larger pool, whatever. It applies to everybody, so you get a massive, massive bonus to that. And at the same time, your allies all gain major force, increasing their critical damage by 15% for 9.5 seconds. So for almost 10 seconds, on top of the 30-second duration of the resource increase, their crits will do more damage. It's very, very good for burn phases on bosses and all that kind of stuff. Keep this up as much as you possibly can, if you can. But if you're in trouble, use the shield ulti. Sometimes you have to. What can you do? Failing that, if you don't have Warhorn just yet, what you can do is you can replace it with Magma Shell, which comes from the Earth and Heart skill line. Starts off as Magma Armor, morph it to Magma Shell, and this will basically render you immortal for about 10 seconds. This will only do a 3% damage per hit of your maximum health, so it's very, very strong indeed. Also, it will give a damage shield to nearby allies for 100% of their max health, and yes, it does stack with Bone Shield, Ignis Shield, and all other types of shields. So this is your oh shit and group protection buff. Failing that, stick with Warhorn. Depends on the content and depends what abilities you have access to at the moment. Now, Warhorn, by the way, is in Assault level 4. You get it quite early on, but you will have to do a little bit of PvP to acquire it. Now, passives. First of all, Ardent Flame, you're not going to need all of these because some of them contribute towards damage and such like that, so it's not that important. So you don't necessarily have to get these if you don't want them, but a couple that will help is if you are chaining stuff and they do get the bonus status effect applied because it does do fire damage, you will, of course, get 500 magic back for applying it. This can happen once every 5 seconds. While you're chaining stuff in, this can sometimes help. This one as well, if you're chaining them, it does grant you kind of like a snare ability that you apply on the target, but reducing their movement speed by 30%, but usually you're kind of rooting them on the spot by that point anyway, so it's not hugely beneficial, but it does help to some extent. These two, however, they're not really important at all. This is about AoE damage, and this is about duration for abilities we're not actually using, so you don't need to mess with any of those. Draconic Power, of course we are using these. Iron Skin, you're going to need this because it reduces the amount of damage you take when you block. This one, while a Draconic Power ability is active, you actually increase the heal and receive that you receive from your heals and other people by 12%. Now that includes Dragon Blood. Now of course this gives us minor vitality, increasing our heal and receive by 8%, but while it's active, not only do we get that, but we also get this passive as well, so they do stack up. This one increases our recovery based on each Draconic ability slotted. We have one, so we get a small bonus, but we're a vampire, so it's not really that relevant anyway. But it does increase the range of your instant cast melee attacks by 2 meters. So our taunt and stuff like that will actually have an extra range on it. So instead of being the usual, it's actually up to 7 meters. So we don't have to stand right in the face of the boss, especially if it's got a really big hitbox. We can actually stand back a bit and we can still reach. So you don't have to be up against its face. Although, that's kind of comfortable. I tend to get really close to them anyway. We also have this one here, Scaled Armor. This is very, very important. Increases your spell resistance by 3299. We have huge spell resistance. We've gone slightly over cap, and that is because of this bonus here. It's very, very easy for us to get spell resist as a DK. Now, Earth and Heart, these are very important, of course. Increase the duration of your Earth and Heart abilities by 20%. So instead of 6-second shield for Ignis Shield, we actually get 7.2, and for our Magma Shell, we get 10 seconds out of that as well, 10.8 in fact. This here, when you use an ultimate ability, you get 52 health back and 42 magic and 42 stamina for every single point of ultimate cost, which is why you want to make sure you use your Warhorn as much as possible, or Magma Shell, whichever you've got equipped, because that's your most expensive, so you'll get the most back in terms of your resources. But even if you use a low cost ultimate, you will still get stuff back, and in a no shit situation, if you need to get a free block, whether it's for a res or just to get some resources or in a bit of an emergency, you can use this and you will still get points back for every ultimate point cost. It's really, really important, so make sure you get this as soon as possible. When you cast an Earth and Heart ability, i.e. Igneous Shields, you and your group will gain minor brutality for 20 seconds. Now, it's not really beneficial for you as such because we're not really doing much damage, but for any melees that are close by, up to 5 other people in fact, if they are stamina based, they will benefit from this bonus. Otherwise other people will still get it anyway. But anything that uses weapon damage will get increased by 10%. It's really, really nice. And of course, every time you use one of these abilities, you will get 3 ultimate back once every 6 seconds. So if you use an Ignis Shield, at least once every 6 seconds, you will gain a further 3 ultimate. Although we use it a little bit more than that sometimes. Helping Hands as well. When you cast an Earth and Heart ability, you get 990 stamina back with 0 cooldown. Why is that important? Let's lose some stamina and hold block. We do not get stamina back while we're blocking, but if you cast Ignis Shields, we do. If you have high recovery, it's very easy to fill up. So we'll lose some more, and we'll fill it back up again. Really, really easy to keep your stamina covered. Also, don't forget you can heavy attack and an Ignis Shield straight after, giving you and your group a damage shield, and you've just heavy attacked at the same time and got stamina back from Ignis. So you can see how that's actually quite effective. So even half stamina, or 42%, we'll go to 50. Heavy attack igneous, 68, 72, 89, 93, full. Piece of cake. Take advantage of igneous shields like mad. It's really, really powerful, not just for your increased healing, not just for your shields for you and the group, not just for your stam return, but also for your minor brutality buff as well. Everything combined. That skill is essential. It's very, very powerful. One sword, one-handed shield. Make sure you get every single one of these. This reduces the cost of your abilities with one-handed shield and also reduces the block cost by 36%, so it's very, very strong. Increases your weapon damage by 5%. Not that important, but it does reduce the damage or increase the amount of damage that you can block by 20%. So again, more mitigation. Improves your standard bash attacks and deals 100% more damage, which is not that important. But the 40% reduction to cost is. So when you interrupt stuff with this, the bash, it costs 40% less. That can be quite expensive, and that really, really helps. Make sure you get those. Also, when you get hit by projectiles, you will actually take less damage from them with this passive. And this one as well, when you block, you do slow right down. But this will increase your movement speed by 60% while you are blocking. So instead of being really, really slow like this, you actually move around quite quickly. Unless, of course, the ultimate is on, in which case you move full speed. We are not using any light armor or any medium armor, so we ignore these. We're using 7 heavy pieces. This will increase our physical and spell resistance. This will increase our return. So if we do get hit once every 4 seconds, and we will get 757 magicka and stamina back every 4 seconds, alongside your igneous shield, alongside your heavy attacks. This is very, very strong. Juggernaut increases our max health by 14% based on the amount of heavy armor we're wearing, 2% per piece. So we're using 7. Increases the magicka or stamina. Your heavy attacks restore by 25%. As you can see, then I could fill my bar really, really quickly. It's really strong indeed. And of course, this increases our healing received, which does stack with minor vitality from Dragon Blood and also the Draconic Power passive for a further 12% as well. It's really, really important to get all these passives. We are a stage 4 vampire, of course. We have an increased 10% magicka recovery and stam recovery. We also have the undeath passive, which is insane. Reduces the amount of damage you take by up to 33%. Based on your missing health while under 50%. So when you go low health, you take less and less and less damage. You get really, really tanky at low health. And of course, remember, if you pop Igneous Shield first, then Dragon Blood after, the less health you have left, the bigger that heal is going to be, because it's based off of your missing health. If you crit that, you can fill your bar in 1 tick. Undaunted is essential. Take every single synergy you see, because if you do, not only will they be beneficial to you in whatever they do, damage, shields, or heals, you will, and resources back, you will get back 4% max health, max stamina, and max magicka for every single synergy you pick up. Very, very important indeed. And of course, Undaunted Metal. We don't have more than 1 type of armor, so we get 2% for that 1 type. If you wore 3 different types, you get 2% across the board, but our magic pull isn't particularly big, and our stam pull is just fine, and our health would be exactly the same, but our resistances and our constitution passive to sustain would actually go down. So if you go full 7 heavy, you have exactly the same amount of health as you would have with this passive, so make sure you get it, and you just keep your stats where they are. It's much more efficient as far as your sustain is concerned, in terms of how much you get back when being hit with constitution, and your resist, of course, if you have 7 heavy, and of course you have the bonus to your resist and everything as well. It's really, really helpful. So stick with 7 heavy if you want, but if you want to switch out and you can plug the gap for the resist, then it's entirely up to you. None in here, none in here. We are a Nord, of course. We have a 6% increase in max stamina. Health recovery is irrelevant because we're a vampire anyway. We have an increased max health of 9%, plus we have a small resistance to cold damage, and we are immune to chilled status effects. And of course, we reduce the damage we take by 6% with this passive here as well. So as a Nord, you're actually really, really tanky. Alchemy, of course, there is a guide in the description for this to get the skill level up really, really fast. Get this to max, dump all your skill points, and just keep medicinal use. We are using tripots. By that I mean 3 different resources back at once. 1 mag bonus, 1 stamina bonus, and health bonus. You get all 3 of the resources back, plus you have a 20% recovery to all 3 pools. If you have medicinal use and you use the crafted pots, you will actually get 47.6 second uptime on their bonuses. So it's up to you whether you pop them when you need them, or you just keep the uptime as long as you possibly can. If that's the case, you can have these up 100% of the time. It's really, really nice. Now onto the gear. First of all, we are using Lucky Mace and Shield, or One Hand and Shield. Now these can be acquired via PvP and from Alliance Point boxes. You can actually buy specific set types to get these out of. Now, what this is, first of all, reduce target weapon damage and spell damage glyph. That will debuff the target even further. So you've got your taunt, you've got all your damage shields to protect the group, and you've got a reduction to damage that they can do to you and the group as well. So this is really, really handy. You can go infused if you want, but you will have to plug your resist a little bit because you'll lose 1.3k, which means you'll be slightly under cap with a minor physical buff. Your minor magic buff or your minor ward will actually still be not too bad. You'll probably still cap out just about, but your physical will go down. So just bear that in mind if you do go infused. But if you do, you can have a higher uptime on this, of course. This gives us weapon damage, which is useless. Gives us stamina, which is of course good for our blocking. Stamina recovery, which is good when our shield is down. But above all, this reduces all area of effect damage we take by 25%. All the time. We don't have to apply any buffs. This is what the set does. It takes away 25% of all AoE damage abilities. But it reduces the effectiveness of your area of effect heals. But, again, we don't have any. So we do not get a negative side of that set. We have no area of effect heals. This is single target and our own. This is single target and our own. This is single target and ours as well. None of them are area of effect, so none of them are affected. It's very, very strong indeed. You have a 6% mitigation bonus, you cap resist, and you ignore 25% of AoE damage. It is absolutely disgusting. Really, really solid set, but it is a medium set. So you want to have this on your weapon and shields on both bars, and you want to make sure that you have it on your jewelry. You got two choices for jewelry. You can have robust all the way through to make sure you got plenty of stamina to block with if you want, or if you're comfortable with less stamina, you can of course turn these into healthy and be really, really, really beefy, but the choice is yours. Magic recovery on all the jewelry, and of course reinforced on the shield and defending on the one-hander, but the choice is yours as far as glyphs and traits are concerned. I kept with the stamina on this just because we can boost the stamina a little bit more. You can go to 50 health if you want and put healthy on absolutely everything, but it's entirely up to you. Failing that, if you want even more stamina, you can drop some of the healthy traits on your armor and replace that with stamina as well. Choice is yours. You can still be really, really beefy with it. Now, the helmet and shoulder is Mighty Chudan. You want to sturdy in one of the pieces and reinforce in the other. It doesn't matter in which order because they both give you the same bonuses, but you want to make sure they're both heavy. This will give us a spell resistance bonus, a physical resistance bonus, a max health bonus, and we get major ward and major resolve at all times, increasing our spell and physical resistance by 5280. That is a buff type. We do not have to slot that buff ever because we always have it on us for free. So that will also help with our sustain because we don't have to waste 4k magic or casting something every 20 seconds. This is really, really powerful. And our base set is, of course, Plague Doctor to give us as much health as possible. Max health, healing taken, and a massive max health bonus. So, in short, we have a resist buff on us at all times with cap resists. We have a massive, massive health bonus to make us really, really tanky and make our shields and heals stronger. And we have a massive amount of stamina so we can block more often. We have block cost reductions in our skills and will be in our CPs as well, and of course we have a mitigation effect of AoE as well, so any area of effect situations we take a minimum amount of damage as we can. It's really, really powerful all across the board, and it's as flat as it can be. Loads of stam, loads of health, loads of resist, job done. Now, champion points. Let's fix these up. 72 points into Ironclad, so direct damage is reduced by 23%. Our physical and elemental types of damage are reduced by 12% with 56 in each, and fixed skinned is 56 as well, so our damage over time is reduced. These all still do contribute to our area of effect reduction as well in our sets and our mitigation. Pay attention to this passive here. If you do break free, your next stamina ability within 5 seconds will be 80% cheaper. If you break free, use a bone shield straight after, it will be really, really cheap. 19 points into quick recovery, meaning that we have a 5% bonus to healing received, which stack with all the other bonuses that we have for healing received. And of course we have field position, meaning if we are resurrecting someone, remember block first, res second, because you can not be knocked down while you've got the block ulti active. You can take 15% less damage, which is really handy, as well as a 50% mitigation from your resists and the actual block itself. And of course 11 points into physical armor, armor focus, meaning that our physical resistance will actually go to 32k. So we're very, very close to cap without any additional buffs required. That also is there for a reason, because now we've got 30 points in this skill line, or passives if you like. We now have access to this. It's tiny, but it does give a magicka bonus to anyone that you resurrect for 8 seconds, so they can get back in the fight nice and quickly if shit hits the fan. 51 points into break free reduction, because we don't want that to be too expensive. 64 points into tenacity, increasing the amount of stamina we get back from our heavy attacks. Of course, that obviously balances out and contributes alongside of our heavy armor passives as well. And we have 75 points into Arcanus, giving us a 14% recovery bonus. We want as much magic recovery as possible. 66 points into Shadow Ward. We are using a lot of sturdy pieces, which I did forget to go over. I'll go over that in a second. And we're using this as well. So across the board, our block cost is actually quite low. So with a really large pool and a low block cost and a large amount of health, when we do block, it doesn't cost us that much. But when we don't need to block, we've got the chunky enough face to take the damage. 14 points into Tumbling as well, just so we've got that little reduction if we ever have to dodge roll. 75 points into Blessed, giving us a 14% increase to heal and done. So any heals that we do, i.e. our Dragon Blood or our Absorb Magicka or even our Invigorate and Drain, will be increased. If we crit, it's improved by 20%, and we will crit because we have the Vengeance passive. Now this is very, very simple. There is a video, I'll link it in the description, for Vengeance OP. It's actually an old version of this character in that video. And when you block 3 spells in a row, each one needs to be within 10 seconds of each other. So you've got roughly 30 seconds to build this up. If you do build up 3 of these, you will see a little CP kind of buff timer, very similar to the screen you're looking at now, in a tiny little square. There'll be a number 3 beside it with a countdown timer. If you have that, your next Magicka ability used within 5 seconds of it will crit guaranteed. Remember, Igneous Shields first, heal second. Igneous Shields doesn't do any damage. It doesn't heal, it doesn't do anything. So that doesn't consume this buff. So you can activate Igneous Shields. Now your Dragon Blood does heal. It does have a stat. It does actually have the ability to crit. So if you use Igneous first to boost it by 25% and then pop your Dragon Blood second, well, this is active. You are guaranteed to crit it with a 25% increase to its strength as well. If you have 1% health and you pop this while this is active, you will heal to full in 1 tick. Guaranteed. It's really, really strong. Now we have 19 points into Physical Weapons Expert just because we've got some points left over. Why not? And we also have 100 in Mighty and 20 in Pearson. 20 in Pearson just to make sure that our stabs do a little bit more damage, even though it's not meant to. It's not that important. 100 points into here just to spend them so we can do a little bit of physical damage with our taunt if we have to. Again, it's a tiny, tiny bonus. It's really not that impressive. But the main reason for putting the points in here is so that we're using something to get this. We want Last Stand. The lower your health goes, while you're taking damage, obviously you can pop this passive. If you get under 20%, your Undeath is already way, way on point. You're taking barely any damage whatsoever because the Vampire skill line is now contributing. But at the same time, you also get yourself Major Heroism, granting 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 8 seconds. This can happen once every 20 seconds, so you've got no real risk factor. You can actually go quite low due to the fact that our health is so large. So the 20% area is a long way into our health bar because we have so much. But the Major Heroism actually stacks with Minor Heroism as well. So your Heroic Slash and this, both at the same time, can actually give you the equivalent of 4 ultimate every 1.5 seconds for the duration if you pop this up at the same time. So just consider that as an ulti gainer. You can actually go quite low on purpose and take advantage of this. It's really, really handy. Now, I did forget to go over the traits, so we'll just quickly check those. Defending and Reinforced on the shield, of course. Sturdy, Reinforced, Reinforced, Sturdy, Sturdy, Reinforced, and Sturdy. So all the light pieces, all the small pieces, sorry. So the feet, the hands, the belt, you want them all in Sturdy. And then just one of the helmet or shoulders in Sturdy as well. Then all the big pieces, the chest and the legs, you want them in Reinforced. Now, don't forget, keep your taunt up once every 12 seconds to make sure the debuff is applied the whole time. As you can see, there's an armor debuff there as well. That's the glyph actually reducing his weapon and spell damage. But keep that taunt up all the time. Keep your Igneuses coming. Keep your buff up as much as you can. Keep your shields up for you and the group. And make sure that you take advantage of chains and of course talons to control the enemies. If you run out of resources or you've built up enough to make sure people can do enough damage or help the group, then fire your Warhorn. If not, if you get in trouble, use your block ulti. Don't feel bad because you had to use your block ulti instead of a Warhorn. If it's shit hits the fan, you haven't got a choice, then it's tough shit. Go for it. Anyway, hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too boring, and hopefully you now have a better understanding of how to approach this particular build. It's very simple for a reason. All the mitigation, block cost reduction, maximum stamina, max health, shields, and protection is all there, all in one place. So it's nice and easy. Anyway, first of all, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. And if you are not subscribing, please do hit that button. It is free. Also, if you'd like to help outside the channel, there are some links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website XynodeGaming.com, where all the written guides are. And don't forget, I stream live on Twitch almost every night from 10 PM UK time. Once again, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.